All right, Bang Bang. Today is Tuesday. It's April 6th. Welcome to the Dog Walk presented by Barstool Sports. I'm here with Chief. Chief, how are you?
I'm doing great. Happy back for the Tuesday. And this is more in line with what we normally do. I feel like we've been doing like some history ones. This is modern day. We're going to talk about that Seaspiracy, the Netflix doc, and the wild world of commercial fishing, which I did not know was a problem.
Such a depressing doc.
It was. It was tough.
It was a tough one, but it was very, very interesting. It was an hour and a half, and I was into it the whole time.
Same, and it's one of those ones where it makes you think.
Yeah, it does make you think, and like not,
in a non-trivial
in every way.
way.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So before we really hop into it, though, Chief, I do want to talk about Chevy Drives Chicago.com. Would you believe that they're still giving away this Patrick Kane jersey?
Still?
Yes.
You still have a chance to get it?
You still have a chance to get it.
Which means I haven't won it yet.
Yes.
Which is bullshit.
Yes.
Because I'd like to have that Patrick.
Sign.
That's not an easy thing to get. It's not like he does a lot of autographs. He doesn't do a lot of, media stuff. Like, in terms of, like, superstars, he's hard to, not a lot of accessibility there. So Chevy is driving you right to that spot.
And it's COVID, so there's no meet and greets.
There
even
you
if
go.
you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
So, ChevyDriveChicago.com, proud partner of the Chicago Blackhawks. They want to give one lucky fan a signed Patrick Kane jersey. All you need to do is go to ChevyDriveChicago.com to enter to win. That's it. Enter to win the signed jersey from Kaner, and it could be yours. Chevy's really bringing it to you at the perfect time because it's time. It's been time. You've been talking about getting that new car for a while, and your local Chevy dealer has a hat trick to get your attention. If you're in need of a new vehicle but don't want to visit a dealership, make sure you check out Chevy's Shop, Click, and Drive. Shop online 24/7. Take delivery at home. It's simple. It's seamless. It's smart. All you have to do is go to Click and Drive. Head to Shop, Click, and Drive. Head to ChevyDriveChicago.com to find your new ride, latest offers, and local Chevy dealer. Everyone loves a power play, Chief. Shop, Click, and Drive. Drive what Kane and Taze drive.
I love a power play.
There you go. And also, we should mention here that the Barstool Golf Time app is out.
It's golf season. It's officially golf season. I hit the simulator last week. I'm going to be using that app to get on courses. I got the bug. I got a little bit of the bug, and now I have like an easy means to find good tee times around me.
There you go. Yeah, you could book your tee times on there. Thousands of courses available on the Barstool Golf Time app. It's in partnership with Supreme Golf. So snap a pic, video while you're playing, share an official course review. Riggs, Frankie Trent, all the foreplay guys, Lurch, their reviews are on there, so you could follow in the footsteps of the guys that you watch on Barstool every day. So whether it's looking for the best course, the most fun course, or the best value course in the area, don't be a dumb person. Download the Barstool Golf Time app and get playing. Okay.
Well, one more thing about this. It sounds a lot like the One Bite app.
Yeah.
In terms of functionality and how it's using. And everybody does like the online reviews, Yelp, whatever. I don't trust any of those people. Okay, I don't know who those people are. I don't know who's leaving reviews. I trust the stoolies, and I trust our audience to be normal guys and use their brain and say this is bad, this is good, as opposed to some
person who's I didn't get a straw 2 minutes
after.
after.
Exactly. So
star.
Exactly. So that's the type of thing where it's all right, I just want to know that the people who are leaving these reviews are good, normal dudes.
Yeah,
and that's what you're gonna get.
Speaking of straws.
There you go.
Speaking of straws.
That was a pro move.
You like that?
I did like that.
I didn't even plan that, but we're here.
Yep.
So Seaspiracy, if you guys haven't seen it, like we said, it's a Netflix doc. It's pretty ripping up the internet pretty good, I'd say, right? But yeah, I feel like I haven't seen it as much as it should be.
Maybe not as much as it should. Maybe we'll push that forward a little bit. But it is it's one of those documentaries. It is trending on Netflix right now. It's in the top 10. I feel like I've had a couple people just in the wild, out at bars and stuff the last week or so bring it up. So I think it is something that people are paying attention to because it has a lot of shock and awe to it. And it starts, right from the jump. And it's, I do also want to say that with Netflix, not necessarily Netflix documentaries, but any documentary like this, you do need to kind of take it with a grain of salt instead of taking it as gospel, because I know there was that one that everybody flipped out about called Cowspiracy, maybe in 2014, that was detailing, big agriculture and beef and really just cows in general, and saying how bad meat consumption was for the planet. It's going to, it produces all their farts, methane, greenhouse gases, all that. And the only way to stop it is to stop eating beef altogether. It's like, wow, like drastic measures, but maybe this guy's onto something. That turned out to be a lot of bullshit. Like the feed lots and all the, where they're feeding them corn and they're not letting them graze and their heads are stuck in that thing and it's all just industrial cow raising until they're fat enough to slaughter. Like, yeah, that's fucked up. But if you have, the grass-fed rotational grazing stuff, that's actually good for the environment and good for the soil. And if you really think about it, all those cows, there's way more hooved animals 200 years ago, before climate change was really a thing, than there is now. Everybody was riding horses. There's way more like giraffes and buffalo and all these things roaming around. So it's not just the fact that there are cows, it's just how they're raised. So you do, even this one to me was a little bit harder to like kind of poke holes in. But you do kind of need to take it with a grain of salt on some level.
Sure. I would agree.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely agree. And when I saw Seaspiracy, I wasn't really sure what I was getting into. I literally did no trailer. I did no research. I did nothing.
I thought it was a completely different documentary. I thought we were talking pirates when you sent it to me.
Oh, really? Yeah. You did. You did. I thought it was going to be like, did you know this sea creature exists in the Atlantic,
Like, it was none of that.
No, none of that.
It was about murder and dolphins and pollution.
Yeah. So what are we going to do here? A kind of a brief synopsis and then get into what we thought? I think maybe that works. So
yeah,
explain best, give a good rundown of what we got into in the doc.
Yeah, so the documentary opens up with kind of a profile that lasts about 10 minutes of the main host. I can't remember the guy's name right now. Can you remember the guy's name?
No.
So like Alex or something like that. And he's this guy from England, and he's like your quintessential environmental bro. And
used to be a big fan of marine parks.
Yeah, and then he got a little bit woke, and he went on this journey, which started with him being like, he really sucked his own dick to start the whole beginning of the documentary was this guy sucking his own dick about his cameras following him around cleaning up trash on the beach. He's calling, different businesses and restaurants being like, hey, can you stop using plastic straws and plastic cutlery and, utensils and shit like that? And it's like, all right, dude, like, we get it. You're the best. You're the fucking best. You're the man. You're the only one out there saving the environment. And, and he says he's like, I donated to every ocean charity that I could. It's like, great. You want a fucking medal? I'm already watching your documentary. You don't need to suck your own dick. Anyway, but then he starts going in.
It did have a point, though.
What was the point? I thought that was overdone.
No, his point was that he was doing all this because he was been told that this is what's supposed to be done.
Yes.
To help make the planet better and to help make the oceans better.
Yeah.
When what he goes into is not really the case.
Yeah, he spends a little bit of time on, and that is at the beginning. And I think those are things that that's just in the public conscious, which is, a lot about microplastics, right? And how bad microplastics are. And that comes from, human waste of single-use plastic containers, forks, straws, all the different shit that people get mad about with plastics. And they just have this, that image where you have like the 6-pack rings that hold the cans, and they're trapped around some dolphin's beak and the dolphin dies. Like, that's what everybody like has that image. Yeah. That's not really the case. So this guy started going around with like, hey, if he started, he found these reports of beached whales dying with lots of plastics just lodged in their system. And he's like, well, that's really fucked up. So he started researching more and more like what kills marine life. And he's like, well, it's actually not so much plastic. It's really just commercial fishing. And like, so then that is what takes him on this journey. And the journey goes all over the world. It's, he's from England. He goes to Japan. He goes off the coast of Africa. He goes to Southeast Asia, Australia, New Zealand. He goes everywhere, talking to all sorts of different people, researching commercial fishing and like the problems with it. So it starts off the first place he goes is Japan, because he finds out that they have rescinded some law that it makes it illegal to do whaling, which, fishing is one thing, whaling is another. Like, no one has really done whaling commercially in a viable way since like we invented electricity and kerosene, where we don't need, this is like the 1860s, where you've heard about like Captain Ahab and, and they're hunting whales and they're used to kill them for their blubber to like light lamps and shit. Like, no one does it anymore. They still do it in Japan. And there was
a pact throughout the world where you're not supposed to do it. In Japan, we just kind of said fuck you.
Yeah, so they had been like under the table doing it for the whole time, and then eventually like, we're tired of hiding, we're just fucking doing this, and they got rid of that law. but then they're also like, they don't want a light shed on it too. So they're very strict. Like they had to use hidden cameras. They had to like bop around, like be sneaky, like
they were getting stalked by the police.
Yeah, like harassed by the police. And so they go to this place called Taiji, Japan, after he kind of outlined this law, and he finds that these fishing crews were going out to both capture and kill dolphins. And it's like, well, what the fuck? Like they said that there is a market for dolphins for marine parks. So they capture these dolphins, they capture some dolphins and sell them to these, SeaWorld type places. And that's another documentary I feel like most people know is Blackfish and how horrible that stuff is. And then he figured out, he's looking over this bay, and you said it was related to another documentary called The Cove, where you just see like this whole bay, like they use these boats and these nets and kind of almost corral them like they are cattle into this area. And they make the nets smaller and smaller and smaller until they can actually like reach down and grab them. And then they were just like slaughtering these animals, these dolphins. It's like, what the fuck is going on? I thought you were putting them in SeaWorld, which is also terrible. But this is like, the guy said that there are 12 dolphins slaughtered for every one captured and sold. So they're just murdering dolphins for seemingly no reason. And then they figure out that the real reason is pest control. And pest control meaning commercial fishing doesn't like the fact that dolphins are out there just eating fish in the ocean. They see them as competition. So it's like, let's eliminate other predators, meaning dolphins and sharks. So then we have more of the tuna and everything else to hunt.
Yeah, specifically, what was it, a bluefin tuna?
Bluefin tuna.
Yeah, which is like $1 billion industry.
Huge. Like $42 billion industry.
Yeah.
$42 billion a year. Well, I've heard of it like... I know obviously tuna is big, okay, like tuna fish. It's like one of the most common fish that we eat. And then there's also like that high-end sushi tuna. So it's a $42 billion industry. There are particular like different tuna, like depending on the quality and all that, that'll go at auction for Japan for like millions of dollars. Like a single fish will go for $1 million because they just believe it's that good. And they also said that the population now of bluefin tuna in the open ocean is 3% of what it was in 1970. So they've decimated the population of this fish to that level, which is fucking insane.
I believe it. The amount of fish they just showed in that doc was unbelievable.
It's crazy.
So much fish.
Well, like that was the other thing too, where it was like, 250,000 of this species, 4 million of this species, and this 97. So like, what was the ocean like in I don't know, 1930? I feel like if you jumped off a boat, you'd hit your head on a dolphin. The way that they're talking about the populations of what they were, like, it's amazing that there must have just been dolphins and whales and fish everywhere. That's what it seems like. So, but that is like that's a real problem, and it goes, and it's not just fish, it's not just dolphin, it's not just tuna, it's shark too. So they get into that whole like the shark fin industry. And that's the thing that it's like, man, like that's fucked up. And everyone, it's like, thank God for Dave Portnoy. That sharks are people. Sharks have feelings too. He wrote the best-selling novel, children's book. But it's all about shark fin soup. And they're saying shark fin soup is essentially bullshit. There's almost no nutritional value. It's only something that's eaten for status. It costs like thousands of dollars per bowl. And it's really in China, parts of China, Hong Kong, and Japan. And what they do is they just capture these sharks, they slice their fins off, and then throw the bodies back in the ocean. So it's not... You ever heard of Steven Ranella?
Yes.
Okay, so he's been on Rogan before. He has the Meat Eater documentary, which I think is great. But he's one of those guys who's like, hey, I hunt to eat and eat to live. And to me, that's like the way to do it. So he goes out, he hunts on open lands. These are wild animals. And then he uses every single part of that animal. There's just something inhumane about taking a shark's, capturing it, ripping it out of the ocean, chopping its fin off for, which has no, like I said, no nutritional value according to this documentary, and then discarding the body and throwing it back out there. It just, you should, if you're going to kill and hunt the shark, then you should actually have to use the whole animal.
Oh, yeah.
So that was fucked up. And then it's like, you forget, like, it's like, it's sharks, and they had the line where it was, there are 10 shark attacks on humans a year, And it's like, well, humans kill like 300,000 sharks a day or something. It was some astronomical. Oh, I actually wrote it down. It's 11 to 30,000 sharks killed per hour by humans. That's the number. Could be as many as 30,000 sharks killed an hour. It's like, that is just absurd, a number to think about for sharks. That's like incredible.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
And we say that, depending on the species of shark, the populations have crashed anywhere from 80 for like a bull shark to 99% for hammerhead sharks. So not great. And that's just happened since 1970. That's in the last 50 years. So who knows what it was if you went back even further, like pre-industrial revolution and stuff like that. So it is really, and a lot of it is what it's called bycatch, which means like, yeah, you're hunting for tuna, you're doing this, you're doing that for something else. Well, you just have these big fucking nets, right? So yes, you're looking for cod, you're looking for a specific type of thing, but you can't really control exactly what gets in your net. So then you're just accidentally killing all these other species, sea turtles and seals and porpoises and dolphins and sharks, and it's just like, well, we got our cod and we'll just throw all this other shit back in the ocean
but they die by then.
Right. Well, yeah, but they're throwing the dead carcasses back in the ocean is what I meant. And that impacts the bird population. So the birds, when there's a lot of sharks and a lot of fish activity, a lot of times what happens with these seabirds, seagulls, all these things, is that the sharks will, and the dolphins too, will circle around the schools of fish and kind of drive them up towards the surface, and then the birds swoop down and pick off a couple from the top, and everybody wins except for the fish. And but now it's like the bird population is getting decimated too, because there's just fewer sharks to drive the fish up, fewer fish because they're getting commercially fished, and now the bird population's dying too. And it all goes back to, it's basically just tied into money. And that's the thing, which like, man, like this is really, really fucked, because everybody's heard about all this, like this plastic in the, plastic thing in the Pacific that's like a 1.5 million kilometers wide in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And everyone just assumes it's straws and bottles of soda and things like that. Turns out it's not, okay? And that's something that I actually knew because I was in the plastics industry beforehand. But this documentary says that 46% of all plastic in the ocean is from fishing nets, lines, and ropes. And that turns out that is way, way, way more dangerous than your six pack of Coke, those Coke ring bottles, because those nets are designed to kill fish. Like they're designed to trap and kill fish. Like you'd have to, to have that actually a dolphin swim into that, a plastic bag or those six rings. Like it's actually kind of hard to do that, and they could usually get out of them. Or the microplastics as they break down is a problem too, but they're developing ways to get that out. But 46% of all plastic in the ocean comes directly from the equipment. And then, there's a ton of these boats out there, 4.6 million commercial fishing vessels at sea at all times. Well, they're at sea for, weeks on end, depending on the boat. And what do you think they're doing? They're producing waste. They still have to eat. They're not just catching and eating fish as they go along. They bring canned packaged goods, and what do you think? They just have this great recycling unit on their boat? No, they just dump that shit over the ocean or over into the ocean. So they say that commercial fishing is really the cause of the vast majority of the plastic pollution in the ocean, and not necessarily you and me in our Starbucks cups.
I was shocked that the stat was it was either the plastic straws that got caught and endangered an animal, or the plastic straws they found in the ocean, which I guess is a big difference, but it accounted for 0.03%.
I think it was 0.003.
Was it?
I think, yeah, it's like almost nothing.
Which I was stunned by, because
that's all you hear about.
Yeah, and that was a big part of the doc too. And that's where this guy did a good job. He shined a good light exposing fucking phony organizations who are just flooding Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, about, demonizing, straws and plastics, whatever, when in reality they're in the pocket of commercial fishing.
Right. So if you look at a label on a can of tuna or, dried salmon or whatever, a lot of it will have the thing that says dolphin safe, and it's dolphin safe by X organization, certified. Well, that turns out that's a bunch of bullshit too. They have no way to certain. They have like the head of the organization interview, and he basically says like, yeah, there's no way for us to know. It's just like honor system. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
We got someone out there sometimes, and they could get bribed. Well, it's like, well,
okay, great, yeah.
Okay, dude.
Turns out, well, it's really like the whole thing is bribes. Like that whole industry where it's it's dolphin safe. That's all bribes. So basically, that's a license, and the commercial fishing that whatever company has to pay to put that logo on their label so they can, that's a marketing thing to get more people to be like, oh, well, they're not killing dolphins, it's just tuna, and I don't care about that, and I want to eat the tuna, but I want the dolphins to be safe. Well, the dolphins aren't safe, but they're paying some, quote unquote nonprofit to have that on their label, and then that's what keeps the nonprofit going. So it almost reminded, we referenced The Big Short, and really it was more of like a partial radio thing than a dog walk thing. But in The Big Short, if you remember, where they were like, hey, they have all these ratings agencies. Well, the banks were paying the ratings agencies to say things were AAA rated, and then they would get, then that rating agency would get a nice fee from the bank for doing the rating. But it's like they're not gonna give them a AAA rating if the banks aren't paying the right fees. So it's like, then the ratings are bullshit, and that's the same as this. It's just a fake label. It's just a bunch of commercial, it's a lie. It's fraud, and so it's the same thing going on with this industry too. So. And then, they say that the dolphins, they estimate that 300,000 dolphins are killed via, they call it bycatch. So like they're by accident catching it or by product. And then they're just dead, and then same thing, 250,000 sea turtles killed every year by accident. And then we're going back to the amount of fishing line and rope. They said that there's that one practice called long line. Well, at any given time on a particular day, there's enough fishing line, like long line, to wrap around the entire earth 500 times. That's how much is in the ocean actively being used, not even the discarded. Because if you don't catch anything, you just rather than take the line in and re-reel it in, you just cut the line and let it go. Yeah. And then do it again. So like that is like the real problem.
Let's do it. But before we do, Chief, though, we obviously have to talk about our boys at Chevy Drive Chicago.
My favorite.
We love the Silverado. We love the Equinox. We love the Colorado. We love it all. We love Chevy.
Chevy Impalas. That was my grandpa's old car. I think I'm going to get one.
Really?
I think I'm going down to Chevy Drive Chicago. I'm not sure. I'm not set on the Impala necessarily.
But you're going to get a Chevy.
But I'm going to get a Chevy.
Nice little Tahoe, maybe.
Tahoe, fit the hockey bag in there, fit the dog in there. Like it's a nice way to live. And you need one as everyone's doing road trips now because things are crazy because of COVID and air travel and whatnot. So get out and see the country, and the best way to do that is with a Chevy.
I love it. So all right, go over there, ChevyDrivesChicago.com. You can get that signed Patrick Kane jersey as well. You just sign up. One lucky fan is going to get a signed Patrick Kane jersey. Yes, I said that. Go online, shop, click, and drive. You can shop online 24/7. You can take delivery at home. It's simple. It's seamless. It's smart. All you have to do is shop, click, and drive. Head to ChevyDrivesChicago.com to find your new ride. Latest offers and local Chevy dealer. Everyone loves a power play. Shop, click, and drive. Drive what Kane and Taste drive. And then also the Barstool Golf Time app. It's here, Chief.
Yeah, that's going to be huge. You can take your Tahoe will fit your golf clubs too. And that app, we said it yesterday, it functions just essentially like the One Bite app. And I trust you guys, the Stoolies, more than just random people on the internet to like give me the truth and the right feelings about places. So that applies to golf courses and anything else. So I'm very excited to use that.
For sure. Go on there. You could look at all courses. You could take videos. Riggs, Frankie, Trent, Lurch, all their reviews are there. So, I mean, whether you want to play a good course, whether you want to play a fun course, whether you want to whatever it is, you're going to get the reviews there, the best value. Don't be a dumb person. Go download the Barstool Golf Time app.
Don't be dumb.
Yes.
Only a dumb person would not have this app.
And get playing. All right, everybody, let's hop into part 2.
And they said that, remember the big oil spill?
Yeah.
In New Orleans, and everyone's like,
BP, motherfuckers.
Yeah, the Deepwater Horizon or whatever. They talked about that a little bit too. And they're like, that was actually a godsend for the marine life because no one would fish in that area because it was thought to be contaminated by the oil spill. And the oil spill was, contained to a degree, but the whole area was then closed off to fishing. So wildlife came back like you wouldn't fucking believe. Like nature if you let it, nature will just heal. So that was, and then it did. So like that whole Gulf, like they came back, I'm sure they had record turnout once they were able to go back in there. So there's just no way to do it. And the other thing I thought of, Ed, you might remember this, but we had, I think it was 2019, we did an episode of this with like all the dumb ideas.
Yeah.
Okay. And I had two that were related to the ocean. One was to just have like a gutter, like a gutter placed at the bottom of the like different glaciers that would collect the drip coming down, and then you'd have a pump and just spray whatever melts off back to the top and let it refreeze. And just so you're not letting the oceans rise, you're just kind of having like a circulate
filtration system.
Or just like, recirculate.
Sorry.
Okay. They said another reason why the ocean temperatures are rising so much is that when you have these like dolphins and whales and fish schools and things like that always moving around the ocean, going to different depths and things like that, that naturally helps circulate the cold water that's on the bottom to the hot water that's up to the surface, that's obviously getting heated by the sun and everything else. Well, if you're having populations of fish down 97%, there's just way less activity for anything to be able to cause that type of natural circulation in the ocean. So the water on the top is just staying up there and nothing's bringing the cold water up. And that was another one of my ideas. We should just have a super sump pump at the bottom of the ocean to bring the cold water up. Now, like, watching this documentary, like, I don't know anything, like, I'm a fucking idiot, but now I'm like, I was right. Why aren't we doing it? Why aren't we just putting giant pumps at the bottom of the ocean? We just fix all the problems.
Let it filter, let it just mix.
Yeah,
Sorry.
a big sump pump. That's a genius idea. How hard is that? We can drill to the bottom. We can drill oil out from the bottom of the ocean, but we can't put a sump up down there to put the cold water up to the top and just stop global warming.
Yeah. No, it's not bad. Then, like, it was a thing where he would get to a situation where I thought he'd fix it, like he'd find a fix too, where they had controlled fishing.
Farm raised fishing.
Yeah, the farm raised fishing. I was like, all right, this is it. Like, here's where he's going to say, like, this is the way
great.
to do it.
Yeah.
Nope, not so much.
Yeah.
Then there was a thing where there's countries in Africa that aren't able to fish, so they're eating food that shouldn't be eating, that is hunted, like monkeys and bats and shit like that.
Causing more diseases.
Causing all that.
Well, that was tough. Somalia, Liberia, like those countries have a lot of problems anyways, but that's basically what happened in those countries is that the governments collapsed. So then they had no like authority to keep like commercial fishing out of their waters to like, which basically like, oh, like those, who's going to enforce, like you could try to fish off the coast of the United States. Like you're going to have some regulations and some problems and things like that. Go off the coast of Liberia. Nobody's fucking with you because there's nobody to fuck with you. So you can just do whatever you want. And that's where, like they said, like real pirates came from. Because it's like, well, they used to just be fishermen. Now they still have these boats. Like you see Captain Phillips, that's off the coast of Somalia. It's like, well, we have to have a new way to make money because all the fish are gone. So they think that that's like a big part of that problem. There was also this group called the Sea Shepherd Organization.
Yeah, that was wild.
Where they have like warships. I got to tell you, I want to do it. I want to join. I want to have an adventure. I don't really want to be like in a war, but I love the idea of like going off on a boat and like doing something of value. Like I want to, it's like, all right, if I could take a summer off, maybe get like me and Donnie, I would love to join the Sea Shepherds and stop people off the coast of like who knows where, Angola or something. Yeah. And because they have like legitimate warships. It was like I don't know who funds that, crazy, but they have. It looks like like this was a boat that would fight in, against Iraq in the Navy.
It was insane.
Yeah.
And then finally, I think the last thing was there's also a place in Thailand where there's like slave fishers. So
yeah, there's all kinds of like then there's people getting thrown overboard. There is one other thing that this is not necessarily in the doc, but I have always thought this about energy too. Like everyone's always talking about, we have to have like renewables because fossil fuels are fucking everything up. I've always suspected that the biggest problem, and it kind of goes back to that cowspiracy thing a little bit, but it's really agriculture, because all the things that sequester carbon are plant life. And every time we like till that land and we release all these gases into the atmosphere to farm for our corn and everything else and our, raise beef, and that to me is probably a way bigger problem in terms of global warming is agriculture than fossil fuels are. This is again like my theory. But it's way too scary to be like, let's interrupt how we make food, because if we try to change that and get it wrong, then everybody will starve to death. So people are way more to be like the people who push these narratives are like, yeah, it's really about like your cars, and I'm sure cars are certainly obviously a big part of that, and we should take steps and whatever. But no one ever talks about agriculture in the same way. Similar to this commercial fishing, like, oh, the oceans are all fucked up. It's because you put your Sprite bottle in the ocean. It's like, well, actually, no, it's not because of that. It's this other thing. And I think people don't want to have like their food prices raised to what it was before. So when our grandparents was in 1960, again, this is not from the documentary, but you can look this up. 17.6% of all disposable income went to food. That number now is around 8%. So food back in the day was way more expensive because it was harder to get, because we didn't, we didn't have the chemical additives for preservatives. We didn't have the same type of government subsidies. We didn't have refrigerated trucking. Like, I know my grandparents and also people I used to work with who were from Poland said, and this is in communist times, like when you got an orange for Christmas in your stocking, it was like, holy shit, I'm having a fruit in the winter. Like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. And it's because they just didn't have like 18-wheelers that you could just ship, chilled, refrigerated trucks with produce up from these warmer climates. So you just didn't have it in the winter. You would have canned peaches and things like that would last through the winter to get those like vitamin C and stuff. And I think that's what's kind of going on. Like, we've just become so used to having everything what we want when we want it at every grocery store all the time and for cheap. And I think that is the thing that people don't want to. They don't want to have 17% of their income just go into staying alive and being able to eat. They want things cheaper and more accessible, and that's kind of where we are now.
I'm curious though, and the guy was smart. He did everything. He traced it to the money.
Yeah.
And that's how you got to do it, because that's how this shit works.
Mm-hmm.
At what point is there a battle of the money here? Okay. The battle of the wealthy, where you do have the fossil fuels, the fucking, the coal people versus the commercial fishermen versus, the environment people.
Yeah. And it feels like the people who are losing, believe it or not, are the big fossil fuel people.
Definitely.
They're losing out to food and agriculture.
That's what I'm saying. Like, at what point do they pivot and be like, "Hey, like, I wouldn't be surprised if they funded this fucking dock." That's the way shit works.
It's true. It's very true. That's and then this guy, and he kind of drew that line a little bit where he was talking about like how the noble fisherman, has been marketed. It's the guy, the grizzly beard, and the old white beard, and he's giving you your fillet of fish, and he's just a guy out there with one line in the water and living hard. And same thing with the farmer. Like, no one wants to attack a farmer. It's way easier to attack a Rockefeller guy, some fat cat sitting in a suit drilling oil and polluting everything. That's like it's an easier thing for people to understand, rather than like, oh yeah, that farmer who's tilling up his land and working hard. Well, he just released way more carbon into the atmosphere than you ever did driving your Hummer.
Dude, yeah, I really think that this could turn into a battle between the three of them.
I think it is a battle.
Yeah.
And I think it's like they're both using like the good-hearted environmentalist people as pawns. Like, they don't want to, like, it doesn't do the oil industry any service of pointing at that commercial fisherman and being like, actually, you're the one fucking up global warming. Like, it doesn't do him any, it's like a hard line to draw. So it's way easier to have the environmentalists just go out there and not worry about, it's like they're all just using the environmentalists as like, people to slaughter.
Yeah, but at some point, if push comes to shove, that's going to be a fucking one hell of a triple threat match between these people. A
quadruple threat, because the government's involved. Yeah, like they're doing the subsidies, and they're writing the laws, and they're protecting people, and who's paying them the most.
Whose money's the greenest, man.
Yeah, exactly. So it is a crazy, how everything is so interconnected, and it just goes. And you're right, it all goes back to the money, and the money, it's fucked up, and people like things the way they are. Like, people. I got salmon in the fridge. I want to eat that salmon. I don't want it to be
Fuck yeah, dude. A good seafood place.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. There's one that opened up right down the street. Now I'm like, I can't even fucking go there because I watched this goddamn documentary.
Will this really change you?
Yeah, I think for that. So like, I have this particular like I have this particular brand. We went to this seafood warehouse place, and they were really talking about this thing called Ora King salmon. And Ora King is out of New Zealand. And I actually looked them up after watching this because I'm like, man, that salmon is fucking fire. Like, I don't want to give that up. But they're like saying how bad farming is. So they have fish farms. That's how they were saying fish farms are really bad. Well, Ora King is a fish farm. And they have their farms in the middle of the ocean. Basically what the fish farms are, instead of you have these salmon that go for like thousands of miles across the ocean, then upstream in the river you see the bears getting them because they want to go back to this place where they originally spawned, which is like an incredible thing that they know how to do. Well, now they just swim in a net, like in a circle, okay? And they're just swimming in their own, it's almost like the same thing as a big old factory farm chicken coop, where they're just like in their own shit, and they have this weird thing called sea lice that like eats their skin away. Well, the Ora King, they have those nets, but they're also like attached to a tugboat. So they're not just in the same spot. They're like moving them throughout the ocean. So like I'm not an expert on this, but that seems like, okay, Ora King might have it figured out a little bit. And like Ora King supplies Gibson's. So like if you go to Gibson's or Hugo Frogs, or really I think probably a lot of those restaurants at the Viagra Triangle, like Ora King is now kind of considered one of the best. And everybody used to be all wild caught. Now I think like maybe because of stuff like this, they want sustainable fishing, but they also want like healthy fish for it, which would be that Ora King, as far as I can tell.
Do you think, and this is another thought I had, I mean, the SeaWorld people have to be doing backflips, right?
Why do you say that? Because
I think, and listen, I'm not saying that SeaWorld's not inhumane.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's good, but I think that this shined a light on a way bigger problem.
It's
a way bigger.
It's
problem.
A way bigger problem. It's a way bigger problem.
And listen, and we're talking, and I'm sure there's going to be some people that maybe do this for work and are in the industry. They're going to tweet at us and be like, "Hey, what the fuck, you guys just We're just saying, we're just reacting to what we saw. Okay,
yeah.
If there's a different fucking way, and there's a different point of view, I'm fucking ready to watch it, and we'll talk about that too.
Absolutely, and that's what I said. Like, take everything at the beginning off the top, take it with a grain of salt, because this is obviously a very slanted documentary. But yeah, if 46% of all ocean waste is fishing lines, that's a fucking problem. And you know what? Sometimes industries die. And we start off talking about whaling, like commercial whaling for blubber. Well, we came up with a better solution for that, so we don't do it anymore. And there's millions of examples of that all throughout history of the world. Yeah. So that's an ever evolving thing where old industries die, new ones are created, and we just keep moving forward. So it is tragic in the moment if you're in coal or you're in something like that. So that is tending to go away, and I'm not an expert. I'm not saying these things should go away, but maybe they should be tweaked. I don't know.
Yeah. What's interesting too is the solution at the end was to just stop eating seafood.
See, and
to do plant-based only, which I was like, wow, that's all we have.
So
that's it. That's the only option.
But that's like the other thing goes back. Then who's doing the farming? Because if you're plant-based only, means you're going to have to spray more nitrogen. You're going to have to do more land tilling. You're going to have to, clear more forests from more farms. And it's just like there's not a way of doing anything that's perfect, but you just have to do it more responsibly and with more thought. And like this, that's why I love this guy. He's been in a few documentaries and I've read one of his books. This guy, Joel Salatin. I'd love to have a farm someday. That's kind of where this kind of comes from, a ranch. And he's big on this like rotational crops and rotational grazing. And so like he will move his cows every day, and then he moves chickens behind them, and then he has another set of birds come behind them. And, because the birds will go into the manure and spread around and eat the fly larvae and flies that are in there. And it's just all this symbiotic relationship. And that's what happens in nature. So if you look through in Africa, you have the savanna, right? Where you have these big herds of wildebeest or whatever moving through. Well, you got a bunch of fucking Zazus from Lion King flying right behind them, cleaning up the shit and tilling up the land a little bit and spreading out that soil, and starts that whole regenerative process. And if you do that and do it like well and responsibly, then you actually improve the environment as opposed to just fucking raping it and destroying it. So there's got to be a solution. I don't necessarily know what it is, but I think people should be open to solutions.
But do you agree with me though that the SeaWorld people probably are doing backflips?
Well, I think the same amount. I don't think they're off the hook. If that's
no, they're not off the hook at all.
Yeah.
But they're probably like,
yeah,
a little happy.
yeah.
That
Like I'm not as bad as Captain Ahab there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, but it's still pretty fucking bad. They also said the dolphin trainers make $100,000 a year. Seems like a big number.
That doesn't surprise me.
You don't think so?
No, that doesn't surprise me. But you're right. I'm not, and like I said, I'm not sitting here to be like, oh well, Blackfish was bullshit or whatnot. But
I'm not really wagging my finger at anybody.
No,
like
not at all. We're
yeah.
literally just reacting, and but one thing I will say too, one thing that stuck out as well, there really wasn't much light shown on America.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that made me feel good, and it made me feel like, hey, everyone likes to fucking tear everybody down and everything. This place sucks and this and that. Well,
yeah.
I mean, look at the shit going on around the world, and I don't know. I'd like to think that we had more regulations, and that's why it wasn't here. Maybe it just wasn't focused, and I'm giving us credit for no reason. But
this is, I hate to be like preachy. I feel like I've been preachy the whole time, but there's a line in the Old Testament called "Get thee out of the country," and it's like the call to Abraham. Like whatever country you're in, you have to leave. And you can't really understand your home until you leave it. And you can do that through your mind and through reading and through other things. But you should like experience other places and get a look at other places, because that's when everyone's like, oh, I'm leaving. I'm going to Canada. Canada's got a lot of fucking problems too. Okay. Everybody does. It's hard to figure out it's hard to figure things out. It's hard to figure out how to be and what's right, and nobody can have all the information. It's just and all the answers. Like nobody has, and if it was easy, then everyone would just do it.
And dude, at what point is it just, hey, this is how it was then because they were the predominant species on the world.
Yeah.
And now it's different because humans are here and it's fucking so populated. Yeah. Like at what point is it like, hey, like the world just wasn't built to maintain us both? I don't know.
Well, I mean, we can't live without them too, so that is part of the equation. But I to your point, it's the old Jurassic Park Jeff Goldblum thing. I really do believe that life finds a way. Like I think that like eventually, if it gets bad enough and to the point where they're like we fuck up so badly, then we're gonna die out, and all those things will come back. Okay, so like if we're looking at the planet on like a 1 billion year time frame, like this is like nothing. This is like a nowhere time.
Yeah.
And the planet has been completely cut, like a literal ice ball before. It's been way hotter and more tropical than it is now. We talked about Pangea with, I think that was Chaps.
Yep.
Where it's like the most of the planet was desert. Like things just change. I'm not saying that like we should just say, fuck it, like life finds a way. We should try to preserve things, but we'll figure it out. Things will be figured out. You just need to have, you need to set up the system in a way that allows people, that rewards people for making the right decisions, as opposed to being like, yeah, we're dolphin free, and you can say you're dolphin free by paying us $1 million a year.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right. That's kind of a good way to leave it here, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely worth a watch. This is super interesting. And like I said, we're always interested in the opposite point of view. So even if there's anyone who listens and wants to come on next week or something that's in the industry, we'd love to have you.
I will even read articles. You guys want to send me articles? God is my witness. I will read the articles you send.
Beautiful. We always want to make sure we're coming from every different angle. So, Chief, thanks. That's it for today, everybody. We'll catch you all tomorrow.